What is up, guys? Back with another one. I'm gonna drop some knowledge on this one. So today I'm talking about if I had to absolutely gain 10 pounds of muscle with zero fat gain, this is the exact plan that I would do. Basically, I'm going to explain how muscle growth works and how you can do it without a surplus at maintenance calories and then using a surplus as well. You can mix and match these depending on the rate of muscle growth that you want and how much fat storage you're willing to actually acquire. So it all depends on your specific goals. Like I always say, I think in every video I've said that everything is specific in fitness. It's all customized to the individual. So that's why you should learn to master yourself and have an absolute plan and game plan for yourself specifically. So let's dive into the presentation. Click here. Okay, so number one, what actually builds muscle? So, contrary to most people's thinking, and I really used to believe this for a long time, is muscle growth does not actually require a surplus. And that is how I am able to build muscle currently in a calorie deficit. So, my current plan right now, I'm about 400 to 300 calorie deficit is on average what I'm doing right now. And I'm still getting stronger on all of my lifts. I'm going to make another video on specifically calorie deficits and how to build muscle in a deficit. It's really just about the timing of your nutrients and when you eat your food, depending on your training. I'll get into it in another video. But for right now, I'm going to explain how you can use this to your benefit to not gain fats when you're trying to build muscle. So, what actually builds muscle is number one, the mechanical tension. So, like when you go lift, when you go to the gym, you are stressing your muscles. I hit chest today, hit chest biceps. So, when I hit chest biceps today, I'm going to failure on all my sets. I'm only doing 2 sets per exercise. I think that's the best to control recovery as well. I'm going to failure to stimulate the most growth and adaptation, and then I'm going to rest and recover from that. So that's number one is the actual stimulus, the lifting, the mechanical tension. Then you have number two is your protein. So you obviously need that in your diet. Most people already know this. Hit 1 gram per pound of body weight is like the main goal that you should be hitting. I know there's some studies that say like 0.81 or 0.83 grams per pound of body weight. I mean, you can experiment with that. You can go lower. I've seen it work for a lot of people, but I like to do, 1 gram per pound of body weight. I think it's ideal. It's easy to hit, but if you truly want to go lower, then it is fine. You can do that for yourself. And then number three, very important, is the recovery. So this is the only part that calories are only playing a part here. So they're still very important. Recovery is still a big part of the process because if you can't recover from your training, you can have the protein, you can go to the gym and have the perfect workouts. But if you're not recovering, if you're not hitting the amount of calories that you need, then you cannot build muscle. It's as simple as that. So let's go into number two, how a surplus actually helps. So I said you don't actually need a surplus, which is true. You need to basically hit the amount of calories required to recover enough for growth. So recovery is, you can think of it as a range of, you know, recovered enough and fully recovered. But if you still get recovered enough, it's still going to be more than enough to grow muscle. It's just going to be at a slower rate. So basically, a small surplus is best for maximizing the recovery that you have. So over time, you're going to build more muscle, get more output from the training that you do in the gym. And in the long run, it's going to be the best for building muscle in the fastest way possible. So another thing that a surplus does is reduces AMPK. If you don't know what this is, it's basically the antagonist to mTOR, which is pretty much your muscle building signal in the body. So when mTOR is high, you're building muscle, you're in a building state. And when AMPK is high, it's basically a catabolic state where you're breaking things down. So obviously, if you don't have the energy, the calories that you need, you're going to be in the AMPK, like breakdown state of the muscles, and it's not going to be good for actually building muscle, obviously. Number two, like we covered, is improving recovery. So the more calories that you have to a point, the more you can recover, because recovery maxes out at a point. You can't recover more than fully recovered, obviously. So if you're going more calories past fully recovered, that all turns into fat, which is not capped at all. recovery and muscle growth is capped, but then anything past that is just fat storage. That's basically what you need to know. And then it's also a buffer against an accidental deficit. So most people don't even think about this. Every day is different. You might go for more steps, more walking. You're just going to burn more calories, you know, some days more than others. So having a surplus, a small surplus in place can act as a buffer towards not going into a deficit and slowing down your long-term progress. It's not going to be the most detrimental thing in the world, but it can act that way and it's good for long-term sustained growth. So, like I said, muscle growth is always going to be capped. You can't infinitely add more calories to add more muscle, but fat gain is not. So anything past that point, it just goes directly to fat storage and not really going to be beneficial at all. So moving on, the muscle growth sequence. So this is really what you need to master and understand to build the most muscle possible in the long run. So number one is you lift like we covered before. You have that mechanical tension, you go to the gym and stimulate your growth. And then from that, you go home, you recover. You don't lift like every single, well, you can lift every day, but you're not going to hit the same muscles every single day. You want them to recover, and this is what calories can help. And then from that recovery, you grow and adapt. Like this sequence right here, you've probably already heard this. If you go to the gym, you know what the basic is, but you want to understand that calories are only going to help with your recovery, which can help the growth and adaptation. And that's why the small surplus is all you need, because really recovery is maxed out at a point you cannot go past fully recovered, like I mentioned earlier, and anything else is just stored as fat. So then the plan that you want to aim for, so basically how to do this at a maintenance surplus or deficit. Like I said before, I'm going to make a full different video on this because I want to explain this in depth and how I specifically do this for myself, like I'm doing now. And so we can cover these two right now. So basically the thing we want to aim for is just to go slow. But, muscle growth, it's not going to be the fastest thing in the world. If you've been in the gym, you know that. That's why it's really important to maximize what you get from your training. And then when you do cuts, this is a little bit of a side topic, but when you do cuts, you want to preserve and even grow muscle, like as I do in a deficit. But the worst mistake you can make is sabotaging yourself on a cut, losing a ton of muscle, and wasting all this progress and time that you spent growing muscle in the gym. It's just not worth it in the long run. I've made that mistake so many times and it just leaves you frustrated and like you regret it every single time. So basically what you need to know for these two. So for maintenance, it's obvious, just hit maintenance calories. You can calculate this based on your calories, average calories per day, and then how much your weight changes. And I did make another video on this on the channel. It's like the Excel sheet video. It's a pretty quick one, just explains what I give my clients to find their exact maintenance calories, like to the fucking dot, like to the T. You can find out exactly what you do just by calculating based on calories and weight trends over time. So the pros from this is recovery is mostly covered. So thinking of that range, like I mentioned earlier, if you're right here, let me say this again. So there's a point of recovery where it is enough to grow muscle, right? Let's say it's right here. Anything past this point here is going to allow you to grow muscle, but you can still be in a calorie deficit and be just at that point where you can grow muscle. So you're still going to be recovering enough, but it's not going to be the most recovered. Let's say the max is over here, right? This is all you need to grow, and this is the max recovery. Maintenance is going to be around here in the middle, so you can get the most of the recovery. Like you still are going to grow muscle, and this is the pro of it. You can grow muscle here, and you're going to have zero fat gain because you're at maintenance calories. The energy balance is balanced. You're not going to gain fat, and you can really do a recomp from using body fat as like when you burn body fat in the blood through fat oxidation, you're making the ATP, which is like the energy in your body, which can fuel the muscle growth as well. So the cons of this is slower muscle growth. So if we're on the range here, you're not really fully recovering here. You're more in the middle and you have a smaller margin for error. So like I mentioned before, you don't have that buffer in place. And some days you might be, lower than the actual required recovery. And some days you might just be there. it's not going to be as sustained as if you were fully recovered. So then going into a surplus, you want to do, I used to say 200 to 300 calorie surplus. I really have changed my mind recently, just looking more into this for this specific video. So what I'm going to try now is 50 to 250, and that's really the max that you want to go to, especially if you're more experienced. The more experienced you are in the gym, the less of a calorie surplus you should do. If you're more of a beginner, you can get away with more of a surplus because those newbie gains really are powerful. Like you'll just build way more muscle than anyone at the gym, and it's just going to be pretty easy for you at the start. But as you get advanced, as you go through the months and years in the gym, it's going to be a little bit harder. You're going to have to push yourself more and be more controlled and precise with the inputs that you have. That's why I call my method precision inputs, my training method. It's very precise things that you can do, that you can control. All the variables are accounted for building muscle, for losing fats, because all a good physique is building muscle and losing fat. That's all you need to do. If you can master those two things, then you will have the best physique. You'll have all the confidence, and everything that comes from fitness comes from building muscle and losing fat. So if you can find all the variables that affect those things, and you can be very precise in the inputs that affect those two things, then you can win the game. Like that's how I do it for my clients. That's how I do it for myself, and I mean the results speak for themselves. So the pros of this: recovery is at its full potential. So you're fully recovered, you're going to grow muscle at the fastest rates. But then fat storage also starts as well. So the energy balance here, if you're over the energy balance of actually like what you're burning every single day, anything past that is going to be stored as body fats. You know, you are going to build more muscle because you have more energy, you can recover more. But this is why you want to keep it lean, keep it pretty low on the surplus, because like I said before, fat storage has no limits. Anything past recovery will be stored as fat and you will regret it. If you don't have controlled inputs in place, you will make mistakes and you will regret it. And in the long run, you're just going to slow down the progress you can make, you know, way faster than if you did this right. And I do want to talk about the dangers of dirty bulking. So this is something that most people, I've really never heard anyone in the fitness YouTube industry or anything online ever talk about this. This is from my own research of looking into biology, how things work in the body, and coming up to this conclusion. So, why you don't want a dirty bulk, this is one of the main reasons. Number one, obviously, you get fat. No one wants to be fat. You lower testosterone and insulin sensitivity from having more body fat. So this happens over time if you're really putting on the calories and gaining a lot of fats. Lower testosterone through aromatase, which is basically your body fat converting testosterone into estrogen. And then you're lowering your insulin sensitivity, which is going to make it harder for yourself to build muscle. If you're more insulin sensitive, you use more calories to partition them to muscle cells instead of fat cells. So you really want to protect this at all costs. And one of the best things you can do is to be lean. That's why I recommend everyone starts their clean bulk at a very low body fat percentage. 8 to 10% is pretty good. That's where you're like really primed to build the most muscle you can. And you're just going to look really fucking good, really shredded. You know, you feel really good if you're at 8 to 10% body fat. I can guarantee it. And that's the best place to start your bulk. So these two things are very important for overall fitness and building muscle. And then the main point I want to talk about here is adipogenesis. If you've never heard of this, it's basically you creating new fat cells, and that makes fat cells or fat storage easier in the long run for the rest of your life. So if you don't know, your body has a certain amount of fat cells that you carry around, and you're not supposed to gain more. You know, fat gain is usually when those fat cells expand and hold more triglycerides, like fat that's actually in the body. They're just going to expand normally. But if you're doing a dirty bulk, if you're in a very high caloric surplus for an extended period of time, you're going to trigger adipogenesis, which is going to create new fat cells, as you can see here. And these new fat cells, you can think of them as like buckets. These buckets, new buckets, are going to make it easier for yourself to gain more fat in the long run. And these do not go away for the rest of your life. Like fat cells do not go away, but you can add them from a dirty bulk. So that's why you really want to stay away from this I've made the mistakes. When I was like 18, 19 years old, I did not know about this. I didn't really care. I just wanted to, I was really impatient and I wanted to build as much muscle as I could fast. But I did not understand even these points here. I did not understand that you only need to hit recovery and everything past that was fat gain. I understood it to an extent, but I was thinking if I just eat a ton of calories, I'm going to build way more muscle, which you will get stronger faster, but it's just not worth it in the end because of these three. You get fat, it sucks being fat, and adipogenesis, you're just shooting yourself in the foot for the rest of your life for the long term. And if you want to be in the game for the long run, I mean, me myself, I'm not in the gym just to look good in my 20s or in my 30s. I want to be, like 60, 70, 80 years old, even like till I'm 100 years old. Like I truly want to live to 100 years old, and that's a reason why I take care of my health the way that I do. And I want to be feeling good. I want to have a good lifespan and health span, which is like the way you feel as you get older. And if you can take care of that, if you can, like I said before, control all the variables that go into your fitness and your recovery, everything like this is just one variable that you should know about. And now you do. So there you go. So that's all for today. If you guys have any questions, shoot me a message on Instagram. And if you want to book a call with me to join my one-on-one coaching program, there's going to be a link to book a call in the description. So hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll see you guys in the next one.